Hi, my name's CJ, and this is Plato's Middle Period, Metaphysics and Epistemology. In Plato's philosophy, there are three parts of philosophy, and they are inseparable. There are no boundaries to them. There's ethics, which concerns itself with pleasure, happiness, and virtue, so the way you should live. Epistemology, the study of what knowledge is, and metaphysics, answers what is there. Background on metaphysics. Part of Plato's philosophy comes from Parmenides, which is becoming, or no, being, and then the other part comes from Heraclitus, which is becoming. In the dialogues, Socrates concerns himself with ethics. It talks about the writings on Plato's views on life, and then separation of universals or forms, the knowledge in other cases. And it talks about how we could refute these universals. Metaphysics of the Fideo. This talks about Plato's views of change and non-change, like the soul. The soul knows the truth and the senses lie, connecting to Parmenides' philosophy. Forms are the perfect things, like circles. In this world, there are no perfect things. Everything is just closer to the form. Particulars is like this world. They are not perfect. Then there's the relation of being and partaking. So we have beauty, and then we have partaking in beauty.
What does that mean?
So like Helen of Troy, they called her beauty. She was like a form of beauty, but they say she wasn't. That she was just a part of beauty.
Right. Okay. So none of us are real. We participate in the true reality. Is that a better way of saying it?
Yes.
Okay. Because we're in the process of change, so that makes us non-real. What? Right.
Nature of forms, self-predication. Forms self-predicate. So forms make themselves what they are. Particulars are non-perfect forms. Particulars are such as the real world, like circles.
Humans.
Yeah.
Chairs. Right.
Forms assert themselves like the same way they self-predicate themselves, and particulars partake in forms. So particulars are like beauty. Simplicity of forms. Forms are simple. They are the one true thing of something. So it's like the human. At the same time, they cannot be simple. Separation of forms. Forms are of being. They never change. They are the true state of it. Forms have an essence and have no relation to particulars. So the difference between particulars and forms are forms have an essence while particulars do not.
What's an essence?
Essence is what makes the form true, like what makes it perfect.
Okay. Or what makes it whole? What makes it intact?
Range of forms. Forms can be written in different ways, such as F. Forms are and are not, such as F and not F. And forms are complete. They are perfect, like earlier, as we said. The deficiency of particulars. The real world is made of particulars, like humans. We are not perfect. Differences between forms and particulars. Forms are perfect, particulars are not perfect. Particulars, unlike forms, cannot be defined. So circles in forms are perfect. They can be something. Particulars are a wide range of everything.
So do you all remember that negatives? Okay. So justice, for instance, we know it's there, but we can't define it. But we know that there's a sense of justice. There's a sense of love. There's a sense of beauty, especially in the human form. But we can't define it. We can't say that Channing Tatum is absolute beauty, right? Because there could always be a higher level of beauty. When you have two relationships of friends, you can't say that, oh, those are perfect friendships, because you can't say the word perfect, because you could always come up with a better example, and then you could come up with a better example and further. Okay? So pause. Let me pause real quick.
Continue.
Hey, Andrea, put your phone away, man, please. Be cool. I'm just checking the time.
Forms and particulars can be known and not known. Particulars can have knowledge or no knowledge. Complex material particulars can be F and not F. Particulars need to be complete to be F and not F. And particulars are determinate or determinable because they are concrete.
So what seems to be a contradiction is a paradox. You are human, but you're not perfect human. You got that? So you participate in perfect human through your form and through being human. So there's an active participation. Participation means that your relation to this other world in your existence now. Okay? All right, go ahead.
Being and partaking. There are two forms, being and partaking. Such as, the beauty or human. There's a human, the perfect form, and we are human. We are partaking in the perfect form. Forms are definable, particulars are not. Particulars can mimic forms because they have somewhat of an essence, but they have no complete essence, so they don't have anything to make them a form. Forms can be particulars, but particulars cannot be forms. Form copies can be independent from particulars, such as souls. Like philosophers say that the soul is independent from our body, so they could go to the perfect form, to the perfect world, and come back to the body. Form copies and particulars can make a circle. Form copies can be dependent on particulars. They also said that the soul is dependent on the body to know knowledge. Particulars can be bundles of forms or form copies. Particulars can disappear, forms cannot. Particulars have forms or form copies. Intro to Plato's epistemology. Forms are knowledge, the real world is not. So it's saying the real world is nothing. We learn everything in the other world, and we come back and we see it here. Forms are not from this world. Our souls know the forms. Forms are related.
So learning is a matter of remembering, and the teacher helps you remember what your soul witnessed in this other world. Okay? And teachers could be anybody. It doesn't have to be like an official teacher. It could be friends. When you guys are talking about something, oh yeah, you come to a conclusion. Go ahead.
The Meno. Knowing or not knowing F. So you either know what the form is or you don't know. And then knowledge is truth. Recollection of the Fidel. Knowledge, it says that knowledge of forms is only needed for philosophy. Forms individuate names. So the form makes something, Hold
on. Pause again. So
concepts are different for everyone. In this passage, it talks about how to recollect, so how to know the forms and how not to know the forms. So like perception. And then for you to know something, you have to know it before, like in the form. And some problems is that one is a problem of thinking one is aware of the form but is not. So a problem is you think you know the form but you don't. So like equal. There's a little problem with this. Some say that you don't know equal. So like two sticks, you look at them and you say, oh, they're equal. But if you don't know what equal is, then you haven't seen equal in the form. But there's no way you know of equal if you haven't seen the form, so it kind of contradicts itself.
It's a paradox.
Yes. The essence is important because it makes the form a form. The two-world doctrine.
So April is equal. It seems that April is, guys, this right here, the two-world doctrine. Two-world doctrine, very important.
There are three parts of the soul that must work together for virtue, so happiness. There's knowledge, which is the form, ignorance, which is no form, and the in-between. Knowledge of the form exists in F and not F, so that's the particulars. Knowledge and belief. So there's a knowledge and then the in-between, which is the belief. Or no, the belief is ignorance. And the gap between knowledge and belief is the particulars, the F and not F.
So what philosophy wants you to do, whether we agree with Plato or not, is not to look at things superficially. Okay, or not to understand that things are not in its superficial value. You got it? So we take for instance art superficially when we have ignorance, and we say, "Oh, that's a good song. That's the best song I've ever heard," and you're not.
So in the sun lighting cave, the sun is good, meaning the sun shows the person in the cave what the real world, not the real world, but what the
true
world,
forms.
yeah, the true forms look like. The line divides the good and the bad. So it divides from what the true forms are and what the
Let's use
world
Platonic
is.
words, not good and bad, truth and non-truth, or good and better. Okay, because there's no such thing as bad.
forms are over knowledge and understanding. And the cave makes this whole thing a full circle. So he goes outside, sees the sun, doesn't believe it, and goes back into the cave.
No. Sees the sun and believes it.
Sees the sun.
Oh no,
believes it,
and knows it. I'm sorry.
and knows it.
Right. Because when you're in the cave and you're given the world, okay. When you're in the cave and you're not understanding philosophy, you believe in things. Oh, I believe that's what the table touches like. Oh, I believe that the politician's telling me what justice is. When you're a philosopher and your mind goes on to the real world, then you begin to know that you can never get to true freedom. You can never get to true justice, but you participate in it. So you come back to this world and you deal with us together. Okay, so there's a striving. You want better. So you want better students, or I'm going to fall asleep? Yes, sir. Yeah. You want to expand knowledge. Go ahead. And all this is driven by what?
Driven by what?
What is all this driven by? That striving. Love. Awesome. You guys are good students. It's right here.
The development of the mind. The mind tells all. So the mind knows what's true. Perception is not knowledge.
Don't trust your five senses.
Perception is ignorance.
They trick you.
Most people live in a world of belief.
Superstition, superficial.
Knowing the form can open one's mind, so it opens the real world to one. Real world objects are not knowledgeable. These are particulars. They're not. Knowledge is forms, and particulars are not forms, but they can be forms. One must transfer from belief to knowledge in order to reach happiness and that stuff. You have to know the forms. The recollection is flawed.
Meaning that as you still recollect and you agree, let's say we agree that one person is more just than another person, and that person is an example of virtue, that's still flawed because you can go even further. If you have an example of a good relationship, that's still flawed because you can go further. And that's what we mean by flawed. Okay?
The method of hypothesis. You have to get to know the forms to know true happiness is a hypothesis. Hypotheses are formed to help accommodate the forms, to help you know them. There's no one correct hypothesis. Hypothesis on the nature of forms. Two different types of hypotheses, Diano and Nous. And then once you accept a hypothesis, you destroy another.
And that's what I mentioned. Okay.
Conclusion. The knowledge of forms is basic, because forms are the perfect form of everything. Knowing and believing change the subject. The concept and hypothesis form the form. One knows the form when they become metaphysicians. There could be different ways to know the form. It is good that each reader struggles to discover what knowledge is.
That's right.